specifically, I'm talking about the palm oil industry. Now, the palm oil industry, they cut down and burn down a lot of rainforests in the jungles where these tigers are
Look
from.
at the size of that guy.
We'll go back to the palm oil talk very shortly. Right now, we'll kind of segue off to the training since that's what's happening right now. This is Katrina. She's our lead keeper here in the mammal section. Now, if you notice the standing behavior that she just asked for, looks really impressive, right? You can actually see how big you can stretch out. But it actually that behavior actually serves a medical purpose. Being a big, dangerous animal, we never want to go into the enclosures with these guys, but we do have to look at them every day. You can't do that with a large animal that you can't touch, right? So being able to manipulate them and to direct them in certain directions or certain positions allows us to visualize the animal daily. By getting him to stand on his hind legs, we're actually able to look at his entire belly, his inner leg.
True.
Katrina's getting him to expose this side right now. And that's also helpful when we do need to sedate them for any reason. Their annual exam isn't like taking our cats and dog to the, well, depending on how good your cat and dog is. But it doesn't include putting the animal on a leash or a carrier and then take them to the vet. We actually have to put them under anesthesia. So when there is a problem that arises, we want to be able to put them under anesthesia as least as possible. It is a source of stress on them. It's a source of stress on us because we don't want to have to worry about these guys and how well they come out of anesthesia. So getting to do these behaviors, even accepting a tranquilizer shot while he's getting fed, Bahara's being trained for that as well. Now, a very impressive behavior that we're currently trying to teach Mech, our 18-year-old, is trying to get her to offer her tail in order for to give a voluntary blood draw. Now, that's very impressive for a large animal, especially a large dangerous animal, to do because they don't want to be manipulated in any sort of way. So we feed them, we reward them for certain behaviors. Even laying next to the fence allows for a reward only because we want them to be very comfortable with it. Now this training is 100% positive reinforcement. That's the only type of training that we do. If he does behavior incorrectly, if you're watching very closely and he does something that Katrina doesn't want to do, there's never a no, there's never a reprimand. We simply give him a pause and move on to the next behavior. Because that's going to offer the least amount of frustration for the animal. Just like with us, if we think we're doing something correctly and we're not getting rewarded for it, there's a sense of frustration. So we don't want him to be frustrated with this training in any way. We want it to be a very positive thing. Now, I already mentioned some of the behaviors that we're training for. They're medical behaviors or husbandry behaviors. By him allowing us to touch him in that portion of his body, we're actually able to train for the tranquilizer shot that I mentioned earlier. And it's not a very light touch, so it can sort of simulate an injection. And you can see he was very comfortable with that. He's getting his reward for doing that behavior. Now, of course, if they don't want to participate in the training, they can simply walk away. And we'll see that during the warmer months sometimes. Their appetite is not, it's not worth it to come train for them. So they'll kind of withhold their training until the evening. And they'll do that. They know they're getting their food in the evening. So. All right, now we're going to start talking about conservation again. The palm oil industry. Palm oil is found in a lot of our products. It's found in a lot of our foods and cosmetic products. And all it takes is to just read labels and purchase responsibly. Now, palm oil isn't a horrible product for you, and it's not horrible in our food. It's just like any other vegetable oil. However, the ways of procuring the palm oil is pretty destructive to the environment, and most namely the environment of the Malayan tiger. It affects the orangutans as well. They do a lot of cutting and burning, and that doesn't allow for a lot of animals to escape. Certain companies are starting to take cue of what people are doing. People are starting to purchase responsibly. So certain companies are realizing that. McDonald's has completely gone away from using palm oil, for instance. They're opting to use a more expensive oil, so it's not an economic choice for them to do that. It's more of a conscious choice for conservation. The Girl Scouts of America have started using a more sustainable the palm oil in their cookies, and that kind of keys onto their message about conserving the environment.
Wow.
So people are starting to see it, people are starting to follow suit. Now reading labels is a good way of doing it, but sometimes companies are figuring out that they can disguise the word palm oil into a chemical name. So Palmitol is another source. A good source of information is the Roundtable for Sustainable Palm Oil, the RSPO. And there's an app that's put out by the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo that allows you to type in a product name or a company name, and it'll tell you if that product has a sustainable source of palm oil versus a not sustainable source of palm oil. And of course, it'll tell you if the palm oil is absent as well. So that's the biggest concern when it comes to conserving the population in the wild. Of course, I mentioned the species survival plan and bringing them in captivity as well. There are not very many Malayan tigers in zoos. At one point, with having just 6 animals, we had 10% of the Malayan tiger population in a zoo setting. So it's very little in a zoo setting and very little out in the wild. So we're kind of at a crossroads where we have to really kind of focus on the whole conservation aspect of it. Because 9 has gone down to 6 or 5, depending on how you look at it. You know, the 6 species is currently extinct in the wild, and unfortunately, unless we as people do something, they will be the 5th being functionally extinct in the wild as well.
Is he purring?
He's doing an excited grumble right now.
That's a grumble?
Yeah, it's just a grumble because his roar is actually quite loud, and you'd have to cover your ears.
Now, do they roar in captivity? Will
They do, yeah. They definitely do. And some of the vocalizations that you're actually